Georgetown. I'm Beverly Enos, and you are watching Spotlight Georgetown. You can find us Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. on your favorite cable station. Now, today we're talking to the Olsons. We're talking to Alan and Michelle about goats and sheep and some cows and some horses. So it'll be a little bit of everything today. First, we're going to Alan and Michelle. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us, Beverly.
Oh, my pleasure. This is going to be fun. Now, first we're going to talk about goats to go. We've seen the signs all over town, and goats to go. How did you get from construction, reconstruction, hazardous waste removal, all of that type of thing, into farming with cows and sheep and goats?
It's a longer story than you have time for here today. but the short story of it is I went to Skaggy, and I always used to work at farms. And
Did you really?
That's my basis of my schooling. So I, even as a young person, I enjoyed farming.
So you farmed first?
Yeah, that you'd have to say so, really.
Okay.
My father's a contractor, so I worked there too, and
Okay.
you know, did the farming and worked with the school. You go to farms and you work
Right.
for them. And that's kind of the start of it. That's not really the genesis, but it goes way back. You know, there isn't any confusion really in the two of them. But we've had goats, for example, on and off for years.
So Great Rock Farm
Yep.
on Pond Street, how long have you been there? How long have you lived there?
At least 40 years, maybe.
Just 40 years.
Just 40 years.
40
something like
years,
that,
okay.
I won't date myself, but I lived in when I was a baby.
So we've
my
always
son's age.
we've always had the goats and sheep there. I mean, there's some adorable pictures of her. I'm sitting on a fence as a 2 or 3 year old with the sheep in the background, and so we've had them all the time. And then we get you've had enough and you get rid of them. The last time we were around, my grandkids wanted some sheep, and I said no, I've had enough. And then my daughter-in-law said, can we get sheep? And I goes no. And then Maureen said, we're going to get some sheep.
Yeah, so you have sheep.
Right.
Okay.
So, and I've always been, I've known enough that I said, I'm not going to chase them around at this age anymore. So I said, we'll get a dog. And working with dogs is a lot of fun, training them, the sheep dog. But it was kind of a first endeavor for me with that. And I found it was just as much work to train the dog. And the dog liked goats. He seemed to prefer goats, so well, let's buy some goats for him. And that worked out great for about a week and a half. And Great Rock Farm has got some of the biggest rocks in Georgetown. Matter of fact, they got the Great Rock out there, the big rock
That's why it's called Great Rock
There's
Farm.
pictures all the way all through the library, you know. And the goats were smart, and they figured out in a week and a half, if they stand on top of a rock, the poor dog can't catch them. So that's a long story but that's.
Smart goats.
So
Smarter than a dog.
yeah, so that kind of goes into how he got to goats to go. What are you going to do with the goats when you're not using them as herding and just enjoying them? So he started with maybe 5 goats, and then it got to 15 goats, to
They
20
multiply
goats.
quickly, or
they
you bought them?
multiply quickly.
Okay.
He bought
They
a
both.
small herd, which were the fainting goats, which are very cool.
Okay,
goat we
fainting
have.
Yes,
goats.
and you know what, Beverly? After this is over, look up YouTube fainting goats.
So fainting goats actually faint?
They do.
They do. It's a neurological disorder that was bred into them. So basically, they lock up their hind legs. They're called stiff-leg goats or Tennessee meat goat. So they basically fall over for a few seconds sometimes, or their legs just get stiff. And it's a neurological disorder, just like people like toy dogs. So we bred it, and they're really fun fainting goats. I mean, you take them out and they're walking behind my dad or me. We're walking them somewhere, and you just see a bunch of them flop over, and you just got to laugh.
It doesn't hurt 'em.
It
There's
doesn't
nothing-
hurt them.
no-
They just
So,
get back
so
up.
they're just walking along, and boom.
Yep.
Yeah, we do
They get
sometimes.
nervous or excited or in a new area. They do it for all sorts of reasons, especially umbrellas. If you put an umbrella up, they'll go poof. So it's quite entertaining.
So take when you have it alone, look that up on YouTube, and you'll have a jolly laugh for yourself.
Okay. Are all your goats fainting goats?
No,
Most
about
of them.
80% of them, 90% of them.
Okay.
So,
Now, the 80 or 90% are just because some of them just don't faint?
but some are different breeds.
Okay,
There's
some are different
there's
breeds,
There's
yeah.
a few different breeds.
Okay.
Not many. We try to keep all the same.
So we have a little over 100 goats now. So what I like to say is my dad never goes small on anything. So we now have
Yeah, I
that.
kind of have already known that, yeah.
Yeah.
I've known you for so many years. I used to live on Pond Street, right down the street, and I used to have to call up every once in a while and say, Mr. Ellison, can you come and get your cows out of my yard? Because there would be these big, bulking cows that had decided to get loose, and they were crawling around in my front yard, and I didn't want to see them get hit.
And you know what? I said, I don't want to chase cows anymore. They're too big.
So you got rid of the cows.
Now
No
we
more cows? Okay. Now, you also use the sheep, and some of the sheep are large. They're big sheep.
Right, the ones you're thinking about
Yep.
are.
Okay, you use them for the Pebbles Land Rush for the Knights of Columbus.
That's a fundraiser that we do.
The
yes.
fundraiser. I have gone to that. You weren't even there last year.
No, I
It's
wasn't.
too cold.
And you, he was in Florida. And then you started it. And it's a British thing. How did you start that out of a British thing?
I don't know. You know what? They like all organizations. They're always trying to come up with a fundraiser. and
Okay.
Some of their fundraisers have gone by the wayside. So I said, here, we'll do this, and it's been very successful. A lot of fun. A little chilly. We do it in January, so
Okay.
it's cold.
Now, for anybody that hasn't been there, this is a fun thing. Dress warmly, put your long johns on, a couple of pair of socks, boots, waterproof boots, because quite often it's in the rain or it's wet. And they bring the sheep, they put a big pen out, and they mark off a grid,
Right.
and it depends where the sheep leave their pebbles. And
You got it.
you buy a little piece of land, you get a deed, and you buy a piece of land for $10, I
Yes,
believe.
I think that's what it's.
Our TOPS member meets at the Knights building, so we always make a donation of, 5 or 6 grids, and I always make a donation of 5 or 6. They provide lots of food. And this is open to anybody that wants to come.
Right.
And you watch the sheep pebble.
They made a special little tool to measure if they have the right amount of droppings on one deed, one land parcel versus another.
Yeah.
So
So
Sometimes it goes in the middle, and then everybody fights over who's going to get the money. And it's big money. $500?
It's a fair amount
Yeah.
of money, and
So-
it's a good fun time just to
It's a fun time.
look at it.
It's a fun
Now
time
it's
for
interesting.
everybody.
You talked about how big the sheep are, and the sheep that are down there are the ones that will stay here for the winter. There's another 100, 150 sheep that move around with us, and they're unique again in that they shed their wool. They're hair sheep, they call them.
They shed, they don't have to be
They don't have
shorn.
to be shorn.
a lot of people mistake them for goats actually because they're hair
So
sheep.
they literally drop. It pulls out as the weather gets warm. Just like-
Really?
yeah, and which is a big item because shearing is there's no money in it, and
It's a 4-H thing.
and it's expensive. So this way here when it's warm enough, they shed it and they just lose clumps of fur all over the place,
And
the,
they have
the birds
skinny-
pick them up, make
skinny
nests with
sheep.
them,
So we have Dorsets, which are the ones that are usually at the Knights of Columbus
and they're big.
land rush, and they're considered a bigger breed, and they're wool, so we have to share them every year. And then the Katahdin sheep are actually originated in Maine, if you can believe that.
You know where you can see those sheep? Down the dump cap. We actually
Okay.
mow the dump cap down there at Mellows.
The sheep eat.
The grass up there, because the town has to be, by DEP regulations, they have to keep the grass down. It has
Okay.
to be down, so we
So
made
you
it-
take the sheep down.
we take the sheep down, and we put them on the dump cap until they eat it down, and then we take them off and they go elsewhere. And they're going to be heading back down there probably this week.
Because sheep
Again.
love to eat grass.
Okay. And the grass grows down there, so they go down and eat the grass.
Yes, they do.
Well, that's cool. Now, the sheep that were at the Knights of Columbus last year were extra large because they were pregnant.
Yes.
They
Yes,
were.
They all had babies in February.
So they were moving a little slowly.
Yeah, they were.
They didn't want to move around too fast. We waited a long time in the cold last year. Now, those are the same sheep that at Christmas time, they're in the manger at the Knights of Columbus.
Right, it seems like a nice thing. They're down there anyways. We put them in the manger, and then
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, and it's
not
nice
foreign
to
to 'em.
see live animals in the manger,
yeah.
Well,
especially at the Knights.
I remember as a little girl growing up in Georgetown, that was always one of my favorite memories is we used to have around town a manger scene, and we have, we did a lot of different things. I remember taking our sheep. Tinkerbell was one of our sheep at the time, and we put them in the manger there, but we all did like caroling and plays and stuff, and that was one of my fondest memories of growing up in
Being a
Georgetown,
kid.
those types of
Yeah.
things with the sheep in town that we
Yeah,
could
they
use them
actually
for.
used to have a live theater production that went down.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think that's
With
what
the-
it was.
with the
Yes,
yeah.
you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, I remember
They did.
taking my kids. So, Goats to Go is, where are the goats going? They have to go someplace.
I get people calling me up on the phone a lot and ask that question. We just drove by a sign. Can you tell me what goats to go means?
Right.
So everybody has, depending on their
Yep.
like and dislike, everybody has a different thought of what they're going to be. But what we do basically is we bring them to somebody's property and they'll deal with invasive species, shrubbery, control, poison ivy.
So they eat.
Yeah, they eat.
They go
eat,
to
you know,
somebody's land and they
bittersweet.
eat.
Yeah, we set up a fence around the area, and they'll basically they strip the plant of all the vegetation, and if you do that a couple times, it'll eliminate poison ivy
Permanently.
Yeah. Mother Nature never lets you get rid of everything 100%. That it's just not. But yes, it'll eliminate it.
Now, I saw last year on Andover Street, you had a bunch of the goats.
That was an interesting
stone wall.
piece of property because they have a plant called Vincta. It's a ground cover.
Vincta,
There's another
yeah.
name for it. And it's so hard. Vincta grows so thick, and it's all these weeds you can't get.
Right.
So he calls me. He didn't this year, but he calls me every year, and we put the goats in there because he's got Vincta and he likes it. And he said it's a pain in the neck to weed it. So the first year we discovered, I said, I don't know what they're going to do to the Vincta. Well, now I've discovered over the course of time, and we use it for this purpose a lot. They'll go in there. They don't eat the Vincta at all. They walk around and they just eat everything out of the Vincta.
They eat the weeds,
eat
but
everything
they,
that's
they
out
don't
there.
eat the ground cover.
Right, and they leave the ground cover just
Isn't that
perfect, like a
neat?
little carpet. And their little feet don't hurt anything.
Yeah.
And so that's what he typically does up there.
Yeah, because he has one of those historic stone walls and stuff too.
Yes.
That you can't move the wall, but you need to get all the weeds from around it.
Oh yeah, that's where they excel on stone walls and places like that.
Really?
'Cause they just get in, they walk around and get in places that.
Oh,
that
maybe I
people
should
don't.
have them at my house because I've got one of those silly walls too that you can't get anything done around it.
Yeah, we have a great example of a poster that we've used at presentations. We spoke at an invasive species conference in Nashville in December, and there's a great picture that my dad has of before and after, and it's actually a stone wall next to a beautiful garden. And we fenced off that area to have them eat that, and they can clean it. So they can get into the areas that you can't really necessarily mow or you'd have to be handing. And nobody
Right.
wants to be ripping out poison ivy or
Yeah.
things like that. So.
Yeah.
But the great thing about Goats to Go, and I think it was a fascinating idea when my dad started it, was I was living in D.C. at the time, and the National Cemetery down there brought in goats as a sensitive area in the gravestones to unearth them because they hadn't been seen in years. It was so thick with vegetation in there. And so my dad came up with the idea, well, we got all these goats now because I wanted, we got them for the grandkids and stuff. So he ended up starting the Goats to Go business about 6 years ago now, I think 6, 7 years ago. And one thing that I find is great is he always finds things to do that he loves. He loves property. He loves animals. So it just goes hand in hand that he goes and sees these. He'll tell me, hey, Michelle, you want to come over? I'm going to this piece of property to check out. It's absolutely beautiful. You should come see it. And he just lights up because of that.
They do a good job.
Yeah. Now, what kind of prices are we talking for goats? And how many goats do you put in an area? Is it so many goats per square foot?
Well, to be honest with you, it varies so wildly. So I'll give you some minimums, and I'll tell you the goats right now, as we sit here, there's 50 goats traveling in a trailer, and they're traveling out a little ways out of town. I don't typically go this far, but it's 50 of them. I mean, and they're going to be there for a week and a half, and it's going to cost $6,000 because it's a big area.
Yeah.
It's a big estate, big house.
4 or 5 acres.
And then, but the typical homeowner, if somebody in Georgetown wanted it, what it is it's $500 for us to get them there. We bring 10 goats. We set up a fence. We set up a trailer. We set up a fence around the area you're going to take care of. The trailer's got hay in it. It's got water in it. It's got electricity in it.
And you just let them go.
And the goats have
Shelter,
shelter. Because I mean, we're very sensitive to that. So it's $500 to do that, and that's $150 a day for a 2-day minimum for 10 goats. So if it takes 3 days, it's,
Huh.
you know, and,
Okay,
and
Not
it goes
bad.
on from there. So that's what it costs to take care of them.
yeah.
The goats enjoy it.
And the goats are happy,
They're traveling goats.
yeah. And everybody, the time that I saw them on Andover Street, people actually stopped. They pulled their cars over to watch the
Oh,
goats.
It's a public relations dream. What happens is, I tell people all the time is, well, you better plan on getting a table out, and if you drink, you better have some wine and some lemonade, because all your neighbors are going to come over, and all of a
gonna
sudden,
watch the
and you're
goats.
going to have a grand
gonna
time.
have a goat
You're
party.
going to have a social, and so I've had people actually hire the goats on purpose to be there when there's a party going on.
Really,
Yeah, so.
like hiring a pony for little kids' parties.
Yeah,
Just
so
to
that-
watch
I mean,
them,
there
yeah.
may be a pool area and the goats are doing something out behind it, but. you
Oh,
know, people-
isn't that funny?
I've had people do that more than once.
That is funny. Now, they eat just about everything. Poison ivy.
Well, yeah, there are some things they don't eat. There's some plants that are poisonous, you know, rhododendrons and actually odd ones, ferns, which most people like their ferns anyways.
Yeah.
Ferns are poisonous.
So
So,
you-
there's some plants that are poisonous, but the goats are smart. They don't eat them.
Oh, okay, so the goats don't eat anything that would poison
No,
them.
cherry will. I mean, but
Okay.
they know what
So
they're-
you don't have to worry if you hire the goats
No,
to,
we
that
haven't had that.
something's going to poison them. Okay,
There's a fine line.
that makes me feel better.
Yeah.
So how do people get in touch with you to find the goats?
Well, goats2go.farm, and if
Dot
not,
farm.
.farm.
Okay.
Or, you know, my phone number is 508-451-1987.
Okay, so that's how they get hold of you to
Yes.
get your goats.
Text or call, and
To
you
get
always
your
got to
goat.
put the word goat.
All right, now, Michelle, your specialty is goat yoga.
Yes.
And when I tell people about the shows that I'm doing, I actually thought for a minute we were going to see a goat, but it's a little wet out there, and we would have wet goats. And wet goats are not a good thing when we're sitting here, and we would have dripping wet goats sitting on our laps. So,
They would probably be very happy here. That you probably wouldn't, because they might pee or poop, and we'd have to
Okay.
clean up with it.
no, that's okay. People that I've talked to, one of the questions they ask is, do the goats do yoga? And I said, no, it's the people that do yoga, and the goats go on the people. And then somebody asked, when I said I might have a goat here, how do you interview a goat? Do the goats talk? So the signs are all over the place, and I've seen this done on videos, I've seen it on YouTube, I've seen it all kinds of places. How did you come up with the idea to do it with your goats? And how big are these goats sitting on people?
That's a really good question. How it all got started was last year I moved back from Washington, D.C. I was down there for 13 years. I kind of came home because I wanted to, you know, be close to the farm and family and everything. So
Now, what were you doing down there? Not,
I,
not farming.
No, I
Okay.
worked for the Navy as an engineering manager dealing with environmental equipment on board ships. So, but that kind of carries over to kind of what we're doing here. My dad knows the plant species, but my background, I've been dealing with invasive species in ballast water tanks for many years for the Navy. So traveled all over doing that. So it's kind of hand in hand. That's aquatic versus terrestrial invasive species. So two different sides. So it kind of plays into that, my
Okay.
background of all the stuff that I'm helping my dad with now. But I've taken up the other side of it, which is last year when I came home, I wanted to do a homecoming. Our goats are spoiled. They vacation in Florida for the winter, and then they come back up here. So they're
You take
traveling
all
goats.
the goats with you?
Yes, the goats get to enjoy, so we can give birth and stuff and enjoy them down in Florida.
You need a little rest. And,
Yeah, they need
Working
some
hard all
R&R too, so they get to go on vacation. So if you can't say our goats are pampered, I don't know who you can say is pampered. So
I wish I was that pampered.
I know. So the babies came up last year, and they were about 2 months old, and that's about the time that they get separated from their parents, because we let them naturally be with their parents. And I was going to have one goat yoga homecoming, and then it took off. Last year, we hosted over 1,900 people and over 60 classes here in Georgetown. And this year got more organized a lot last year, and this year we've been working with like local people to bring in vendors and stuff like that. So it's a lot of fun. I try to engage a lot of people in town and do charity works and other things. But that's kind of how it all started. Now, you talk about the size. We don't use big goats. We use the baby goats.
Baby goats.
So I
Okay.
steal all my dad's baby goats from his projects because we keep them separate because it wouldn't be good PR. People wouldn't come back to see the babies if they were getting poison ivy. So we keep them separate.
'cause goats
so,
get poison ivy
yeah,
on their-
a lot
on
of
their-
people ask that.
Their wool.
Their
on their
oils.
fur.
So if you put that near a person, it
patted
would
'em.
spread to the person. Okay.
Yep. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
our goats, our smallest goat right now is probably under a foot tall, and they were all born in January. So they're all
So
they're
few,
all
a few pounds.
they're between right now because they're almost 9 months. They're 8 months old right now. They're born in the middle of January this year, and they are between 8 and maybe 25 pounds.
Okay.
So, and people don't tell the difference actually when you have an 8-pound versus 25 because of the way that they jump. So that's the other part of the goat yoga is the goats aren't trained. However, they learn that they love jumping on things, and then they learn it's okay for me to jump on this human that's down on all fours. So they really enjoy interaction with people, and we give them treats, and the goats just jump up on their own.
So if somebody is down doing a yoga,
A yoga pose, downward dog or downward goat as we call it in the goat yoga.
and then the goats just jump up
Yep.
and sit there.
Yep.
Or stand there.
Yep, they stand up there and, sometimes they're looking for a little treat because they know that they've done something good. And it's really funny when multiple goats jump up on someone because they kind of play and they fight and push each other off just like they would on a rock. If you've ever seen goats, it's really cool, them interacting. So, and people, yoga is supposed to be tranquil and zen, but when you have the goats in the mix, you hear a lot of laughter and nobody leaves without a smile. It's just so
That must
therapeutic.
be amazing.
Yeah, the interactions is great watching.
Oh,
them.
that's fun.
The goats socialize and their personalities come out as they grow, and then the people just I've had lots of people come from all over that some people have never even dealt with animals or anything. And
We
they
saw
enjoy it.
people were spending more time. They're actually yoga instructor doing this, and those people actually were spending more time with the goats than
Then with the yoga instructor doing
Yep.
yoga.
And then that's it. She decided that to do a goat snuggle.
That was my next
Oh,
question.
I'm sorry.
I heard
So
Yeah.
now, if you have if you have an
because
elder
you and
person,
your
they can
mom
sit in a
both-
chair.
both
Yeah.
go to get in shape for women, and that's where I see you.
Mm-hmm.
And Maureen said something about a goat snuggle, and I'm thinking, okay, it sounds like me and my blankie.
Mm-hmm.
So what is a goat snuggle?
Goats are very cuddly. So they have, when they relax and calm down after a little bit of eating treats and stuff, they sometimes will sit and lay in people's laps. So I had a lot of people that called last year and said, I don't want to do the yoga. Can I come see? Well, we're a private farm, so we don't have people like a petting zoo or anything like that. Our animals are out in fields and stuff and just being animals. So people said, can I come? And I said, well, you can come to the yoga class and not do yoga. But then I realized, half the people aren't doing yoga, so it's harder for the instructor to be like, okay, nobody's listening to me. So they know that happens. So we started the goat snuggle, and we started goat snuggle and groom, and we started some other ones to help people interact. And during the snuggle, I've had people that have done both the yoga and snuggle, and they really like the snuggle because you can still do the yoga poses and get pictures, but you're also learning about the goats the whole time. So I tell them about the health, how old they are, how to identify female and male, what they do when they get older. So I give them all like the history of the goats, and it's very family oriented because
Some people that are older too, we'd have a chair. They're just not. They're not going to be up and down,
I
you
was
know.
just gonna-
And
this
so
sounds-
they might be right in a chair.
Yep.
And
I
then
was
the
ju-
goats are going to like.
This sounds great for like a rehab or a nursing home
I
or
actually
an elder.
I had some
Senior
assistant living,
center?
a living center coming in, and a retirement ceremony, retirement home is coming in 2 weeks.
And we haven't done anything with it, but we've been talking to the VA about doing it for free at the Veterans Administration too.
Mm-hmm.
And what about the schools?
So we tailor towards more adults.
Okay.
But we have done quite a few schools. Last year we actually did one, speaking of coming up, we did a Sarah Connick at the Georgetown Peabody Library contacted us last year. And that was our first year doing off-site, which even a mile down the road from our house, it was a lot to set up fencing
Yeah.
and get the goats there and
Yeah.
everything. It was a process. So we tend to like to bring people to the farm to get the whole experience. But This year, I've been doing tons of charity events. We've raised over $3,000 for different charity events all over the local area, and we are doing one actually September 5th for the Georgetown Peabody Friends of the Georgetown Peabody Library. So hopefully that will help raise them some money too. So
One of my other interviews today was Special Olympics, and I imagine some of the Special Olympians would feed right into this.
yeah, we have all ages that we've come into it. We allow 3 to 11 with adult supervision just because of the interaction is much more than a petting zoo. So it's you never know when a goat's going to jump on you. And my kids this year are so good. We have 35 of them. They jump on people in seated
So
position.
you ever heard of a young woman with 35 kids?
Yeah.
Yes. And speaking of that, we just had one born in the last week.
Oh, wow.
So we now have one new
How
baby.
big are the goats when they're born?
So they're about 2.5 pounds, 2.5 pounds to 4 pounds, depending on what breed they are.
Okay.
And so some of
So
ours,
they're just little babies.
they're little
Yeah, a
tiny,
little bigger
tiny.
than that, but little.
Oh. Oh.
And they're little jumping pea pods, right?
They're
when
like
they
the
come out.
size of a little puppy.
Oh yeah, they're like a little Yorkie.
Oh my
Tiny.
goodness. Now, you said that when you do some of these goat yogas, you have other vendors and people come in, and you make it a social event. What type of things do
Well,
you offer and do?
Well, I think she talks about vendors within town.
Yeah.
She makes arrangements for people to leave here and go to, well, go down to have ice cream down there. That type of, so different vendors, so other people in the business community.
Okay.
We're not running vendors
Right.
up there.
Not there, but
Yeah, so what I've done is I do cupcakes, and then I do also all sorts of breakfast sometimes. I'll do mug nights, T-shirt nights.
Oh, yeah,
So
mug
we
nights,
bring
you know
in.
that?
Oh yeah.
And I know maybe we should do this afterwards, Beverly, but what kind of brought this along with you? This is for in the morning. I'm having a goat morning.
Yeah.
Oh,
So when you're
thank
having you can have a goat morning any morning.
oh, isn't that cute? Okay, so you actually involve businesses from Georgetown. So when they finish with the goat yoga, they then go to whatever business you're helping promote that time.
They may go to Noonan's and do ice cream and
Mini golf.
mini
Okay.
golf or other places. So she's made arrangements. It
Isn't that
might be
great?
might be the spot. There's different places.
Okay, what a good deal for
It's,
them.
it's very nice,
Yeah.
She does that.
Yeah, that's why it's really great. I like to involve the local area, and that's why I've been trying to find more local charities right in the area to help as well for some fundraising.
So you partner with other businesses in town,
Yes, yeah,
and you do charities and donations and things like that.
correct. Yeah.
And for people to get hold of you for the goat yoga, how do they do that?
We're on a variety of different social media. So we have, we're at Goats to Go on Facebook. That's where we post the majority of our stuff. And then we're also on Instagram, goatstogo.farm at Instagram. And
Okay.
we post our favorite pictures and videos there. And then we also have the goatstogo.farm/events. And we have a whole calendar of events now through October that we're going to be finishing up. Our season here, at least in Georgetown, ends in October, and then we continue again down in Florida.
Now, where do you go in Florida? That leads right into the next thing I want to talk about. Where do you go in Florida?
The sunshine, of course. No,
Where?
we have a southern farm down there, Black Prong Equestrian Center, and they do a variety of different events there. And since the goats are there, we continue to do goat yoga down there and goat snuggle classes.
It's outside of Ocala.
It's right outside
Okay.
of Ocala, right 45 minutes from the University of Gainesville.
Now, Maureen is a big part of that one.
That's where she's been for the last 15 years, all winter.
Okay.
She goes down there and doesn't come back.
I know, because we miss her. So what does she do down there?
It's a resort, and so there's people coming with their horses, and they're staying for the winter.
They
And,
stay with their
Stay
horses.
with their horses for the winter, and
Cabins with a barn.
cabins, and there's a whole facility there, and it's surrounded by 50,000 acres of state forest. So it's
Oh, wow.
it's a focused. I don't have the right word, but it's a tailored type of thing just for horses. And people.
Okay.
But I mean, there are other things we raise. We have the goats down there.
Herding
across the
dog
street in the
trials.
herding dog trials. We have herding dog trials there and
Endurance.
endurance rides and stuff like that.
Obstacles.
And so the goats, our goats go down. They stay with us at our section of the farm, and that's where they rest, recover, have babies, and get ready for the next year to head back
Okay.
up. It's not as extravagant as it sounds, considering we have a trailer. It's the fuel to drive to Florida. And we have a big trailer. It's a double-decker, holds a couple hundred of the animals. And we load them in
And you
20,
listen to
24 hours.
goats.
24 hours they're down in Florida, and they're not freezing water. They're not babies aren't dying in the snow. I mean, those are realities of life.
Okay.
You know, it's just,
So it's good for the goats.
It's good for them. It's everything. It's easier
Yeah.
for the price of fuel, and we enjoy them, so we get to enjoy them. We can't do the yoga outside down there, so she does the yoga there. The first time she put that on, and it's a very rural area, very rural, and the first time she put it on the web, she must have had 500 people inquiries in the first day.
Yeah, 500 the first
People
day.
coming
Within the
from
first week,
3
there
or
was
4 hours
3,000
away.
people. The longest people came was from Atlanta, Georgia, which was almost 5 hours away. And I had people from Tallahassee, close to 3 hours, and Tampa, Orlando,
crazy.
all over. So we've already got quite. I just posted the ones that will start in November there, and we already got a lot of interest. in
Now, I
signing
had
up.
a girlfriend across the street when I lived in Winchester when I was young. And she taught me how to ride, and I used to go up to the stables and ride with her. And she'd go away for 2 weeks every summer with her horse. She'd
Right.
go to horse camp.
Yep.
So this is Maureen's version of
This,
horse
this
camp.
is horse camp. The majority of the people are probably not working anymore. A lot of them are actually people that are really vying for world championship type of things because they want to continue. They can't practice in the winter, so they're down there for that. And again, it's the demographics, the age. Some people like the horses. Some people just want to go to a beach. Some people want to go golfing. And
Okay.
so if your love is horses, this is a place here. It's actually one of a kind in the country. You go down, bring your horses. You can take your coffee cup in the morning.
So it's
walk
like
right out in the
it's like
barn
a
and feed
winter
your horses.
camp for people with horses.
It is
Exactly.
Wow.
about 3 months, and people go down.
So instead of having, going to Florida and living on a golf course, you go to Florida and live on a horse farm.
Correct.
With
Wow.
beautiful state forest right next door. So
That is neat.
we've had people coming for over 10 years since we built the facility. Every year they've come for 3-4 months at a time.
Yeah.
And other countries, Europe, California. I mean, every place.
Yeah. She's talked about it quite a bit with when we're working out together and when we can breathe. Or on the treadmills or something, we talk about what goes on. And then we miss her for the winter and she's gone. And then all of a sudden she's home again.
She stays pretty fit down there.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. Have we covered everything about your goats and your sheep? And have we missed anything?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, the subject could go on and on and on for a long time, over a cup of coffee and dinner. But, I don't think we have that kind of time.
No, I mean
You
for
know.
today. Have we covered everything for you? For your yoga and your goats and
Just that goats in general are a lot of fun. So
I can-
anybody that wants goats or are considering goats, the answer is yes, but always 2 or more. So, and you brought up the horse thing too. Actually, sometimes people have goats with horses as companions for the horses too.
Really?
So we've had a lot of people over the years that do that.
And again, so what's the website for people to go to and find you?
It's goatstogo.farm.
Okay.
And we have all the
goatstogo.farm.
information on the poison ivy control, where we'll be presenting. We do presentations for learning about goats to go and how they eat poison ivy and why they eat poison ivy in more depth than we went over here, and our whole upcoming events.
Great.
So-
Well, thank you very much. This has
Thank
been
you
fun.
very much.
Well, thank you
Good
very
to
much.
see you.
Thanks
Thank
for the
you.
invitation.
Thanks so much for inviting us, Beverly.
Thank you very much. That was fun. I'm going to go look at the goats.
So I can send you some pictures too, like
Okay.
some stuff that we talked about to flash up if you'd like to.
Yep, we'll put some
So-
pictures on at the end of the show.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
Yeah.
They'll actually put some as we're doing the show. That'll be
Yes.
even more fun.
I have quite a few. So he mentioned go to just YouTube. We have a lot of videos that we've done ourselves on YouTube with the goats, goat yoga, goat snuggle, and then I have an assistant principal in North Reading School that comes, and she likes to hang out with the goats and groom them and stuff. And
that's
she
been
sits out there
funny.
and she's been doing great videos. One of them that we did is Goat Your Summer Reading, which is the goats are reading, and it's a great video. So I have like tons of videos.
Well,
and
the
then,
ghost grab the pages.
then there's, yeah, they're picking up the pages. One's like tapping the book, and she's got the lineup of the books. It's a really great video.
I want to go online and watch the goats,
Yeah, we have a lot of good ones. We don't necessarily do that. So.
the goats
The ones
faint.
we don't necessarily have all the fainting goat pictures,
Yeah.
but we should probably do a fainting goat video. My dad can come with the umbrella.
That'll be fun.
But it's
So it
fun.
was great to talk to both of you today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Beverly.
You've been watching Spotlight Georgetown. I'm Beverly Enos. Don't forget Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Thank you for joining us today. Bye for now.